Welcome back to another round of Basis Picks, or in this instance, Basis Pick, because there's only one fight worth talking about this weekend. Disclaimer, I haven't actually seen any of the Channel 5, is it Wasserman? The Wasserman card that was on Channel 5 last night. So I couldn't tell you who won. Yeah. Anyway, right. So, Artur Beterbiev, Joe Smith Jr. Now, on paper, this is a very easy fight to break down, but we don't necessarily like to do things on paper. You have to kind of look at all sides, all eventualities. And it's funny, the other day I was looking, and when you actually look at sort of base styles, so you've got Artur Beterbiev, who is very much a come forward pressure fighter. But then you've got Joe Smith Jr., who's more of a pressuring boxer puncher, in my opinion. Like, shots are pretty wide, but he uses his jab in order to try and set up his heavier shots. Sort of while walking you down, coming into range, just having, technically just being like the bigger guy in the ring. So when you actually look at the base styles in that instance, Artur Beterbiev is actually tailor-made for Joe Smith Jr., but Joe Smith Jr. isn't tailor-made for Artur Beterbiev. His best work comes against pure boxers, or boxers that look to set up shots via counters and sort of look to hit and move a lot more. So he can get those people to throw more than they need to throw or than they want to throw, and so that he can, wear them down, grind them down, hurt them to the body, hurt them to the head, and obviously take them out. And with 100% KO ratio in 17 fights, the tactic works. Joe Smith Jr., on the other hand, doesn't like to travel and find his opponents. Whenever he deals with someone with movement, he always struggles. He would much rather prefer someone to come and just walk to him and have a slugfest and, sort of just trade up close. And that's his more preferred method of working. Now, with that, him being a much sort of, or being not much more, much taller, but he's the taller guy. He's got a very long range. He sort of does need that mid to long range distance, but he wants them to obviously be within that range to let off his attacks. Now, that's the idealistic way of looking at how the fight breaks down. They both hit incredibly hard, but Artur Beterbiev has that thudding power where every shot hurts. He doesn't load up on the shots. He just puts it out there and it hurts you. Puts it out there and it hurts you. Puts it out there and it hurts you. Joe Smith Jr. is more of an explosive puncher. It's not necessarily about gas tank, but he throws force into his shots. Because of his long levers, he puts a huge amount of leverage into each shot. And that's what does the damage to most of his opponents. Now, where this kind of comes to a segue, because both of these guys are going to be walking forward on each other, so none of them are going to be circling the ring trying to box and move, hit and hold. They're just going to be at that mid-range to inside range level, and they're just going to be working, sort of working each other over in that capacity until one of them falls. Now, as much as Beterbiev is more tailor-made for Joe Smith Jr., Beterbiev's actual body dimensions and size makes that his fight on the inside, purely because all of his shots, they're smaller, they're compact. There's not as far to travel to the distance back to the face or back to the body or to cover and sort of protect. Whereas obviously Joe Smith Jr., anytime he throws something out, there's a lot further away for it to have to come back, so you can always get caught in between. How do I see the fight going? Well, by all intents and purposes, I've heard that Joe Smith Jr. has wanted this fight for a while, and it was Artur Beterbiev's team that pulled out or delayed and whatnot on several occasions. Now, one thing we do have to factor in, Artur Beterbiev has had rather substantial injury issues as of late, and he's also had extended time out of the ring. Plus he's 37, going to be 38 in January. So you kind of look at all of that and you say, does he still have it in the tank to keep having these same kind of wars that he's been having? Joe Smith Jr. is 32, you know, he's in that prime of his career right now. He seems to be in his best possible shape. He's training more consistently and not having to work as much. You know, he's been able to dedicate himself to his boxing training. So all of that kind of leads you to then say he should have the advantages in this fight. But when I look at it, I see the fight breaking down as the first 2 to 3 rounds are not gonna be super eventful. They're both gonna be working out their range. What's the best way I can get on the inside? What's the best way I can gain safe entry? That'll be Artur Beterbiev's mindset. Joe Smith Jr. will be like, okay, how far away is he from the jab? Like, can I hit him? Can I hit him with a power jab? Do I need to just hit him with a rangefinder? Can I land the backhand at any point in this time? Should I be trying to go to the body? Should I be trying to aim for his head? So I feel like the first 2 to 3 is going to be more about measuring each other. After that, I believe that both of them are going to have sufficient information to say, okay, now I need to get to work on my game plan. So Artur Beterbiev's game plan is going to be to stick real close to Joe Smith Jr., not let him back off, like not let him, gain distance, not let him use his natural size and length, reach, to be able to sort of keep you out of your sweet spot, but stay within his. So he's got to move forward. Those older legs have got to travel in on the inside, and he's got to punch between Joe Smith Jr.'s punches, and he's got to catch him when he's trying to bring his arms back for protection. Joe Smith Jr. on the other hand is going to be trying to, as I said, create a little bit more distance, because he's the slightly taller guy, not by much, is maybe half an inch, 3/4 of an inch if that, but he's got a much longer wingspan. So he's going to be looking to sort of almost do step back counters as much as possible, trying to make sure that he can get full leverage on both the jab when he's powering it forward into Artur Beterbiev's face or his body, so that he can throw the right hand over the top, with that explosive power, and hopefully cause the damage. But he has a lot of tells on his punches, so that is something where if Artur is switched on, he'll be able to read when a lot of those punches are being thrown, and he should be able to make adjustments, being the naturally more experienced guy with the better boxing IQ and acumen. So after those 2 to 3 rounds, I think this is then Artur Beterbiev is going to get busy. Joe Smith's going to have moments of success, and I even suspect that both guys are going to end up on the canvas at least once in this fight. Artur probably from a shot that he didn't brace for in time. He probably saw it, just didn't brace for it, and it catches him and he sort of goes down, but powers of recovery bring him back up. But I feel that Joe Smith Jr. is going to end up on the ground a couple of times. He's got a great chin, he's got a great gas tank, he doesn't tire out, which I've never seen him tired in a fight, apart from maybe the 12th round of the Bivol fight. But yeah, ultimately I'm gonna go for Artur Beterbiev KO victory within, I'm saying rounds 9, I think rounds 8 or 9. I just think he's gonna put on a bunch of pressure on Joe Smith Jr. that he's just not going to be able to handle after, say, like round 5. And I feel like he'll probably just be in survival mode from maybe round 6, 7 and 8. And then, yeah, from between 8 and 9, that's when I feel like Beterbiev will close the show. I reckon there will be quite a bit of body work in there, to be honest, but there will definitely be that both guys' faces will definitely show the damage afterwards, but I feel like Joe Smith Jr.'s will probably show a little bit more, because this is definitely going to be one of those grueling, flooding matches. It's not going to be over quickly, in my opinion. But yeah, that's my official prediction. I was toying with the fact of Joe Smith Jr. potentially being causing the upset. There's a lot going in his favor, but ultimately the boxing IQ of Artur Beterbiev is still levels above. He still seems to be in pretty good condition. He doesn't look like he's cutting corners in camp. You know, he's doing everything correctly. Yeah, there's always a chance you get old overnight or get old in the ring, but I feel like his natural experience and his IQ and his boxing technique and just what he does will take him through this a bit more than what Joe does. He's come on leaps and bounds since, obviously, like, you know, the Bivol loss and whatnot, but he's still just a novice in terms of experience when it comes to Beterbiev, and that's why I feel like this match is going to be won. So yeah, that's my official prediction. Artur Beterbiev KO Joe Smith Jr. between rounds 8 and 9. You guys leave yours in the comments. I'll review them all in the morning. We can see which ones are right. But yeah, thanks very much for watching, and right now, basis pick locked.